Welcome back to the Soap Insider 2.0. Today, we are doing something huge. If you're a die-hard fan of EastEnders, you already know that May 2026 is starting to feel different. Something in Walford has shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that you can't ignore anymore. Because this isn't just another week in the square. This is the beginning of a chain reaction. We're not just talking about one storyline or one episode. This is a full breakdown of everything quietly building in the background and how it's all about to come together. Because this month isn't loud chaos. It's the kind that builds slowly, quietly, and then hits all at once. From a connection no one expected, to decisions that don't feel right anymore, and a return that doesn't bring comfort, but tension. Everything is shifting. And here's the part most people are missing. None of these stories are separate anymore. They're overlapping. One decision is affecting another. One moment is triggering something big, and once that chain fully reacts, there's no stopping it. So take a moment, get comfortable. Because once we get into this, you won't look at Walford the same way Ian Beale. Power versus control. Let's start with Ian Beale. Because on the surface, he's exactly where he always wanted to be. In control. Respected. Untouchable. It's the truth. This doesn't feel like control anymore. It feels like pressure. Because power in Walford never stays stable. And the higher you climb,
the harder it hits when you fall. Ian thinks he's won. But this doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like the beginning of something slipping. His win didn't just create distance between him and the square. It created cracks inside his own family.
And when Kathy Beale steps back, that's not rebellion. That's a warning. Because disappointment cuts deeper than anger ever could. And Ian? He's not seeing it. Or maybe he's choosing not to. And then there's Elaine Peacock. For months, it's been nothing but tension, clashes, disagreements, opposite sides, no middle ground. Until that moment at the B&B. Because something changed. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one moment where the line between rivalry and something else disappeared. And that's dangerous. Because in Walford, the quietest moments create the biggest consequences. Now here's the real twist. This doesn't feel like strategy. And that's the problem. Because Ian Beale doesn't make mistakes like this. He plans. He calculates. He controls. So if this connection with Elaine isn't part of a plan, then what is it? Because for the first time in a long time, Ian Beale is not the one in control. And that changes everything. But here's where it gets worse.
Beer. Because no matter how quiet things feel right now, Beer is never far from the fallout. And if she even senses this shift, it won't be loud. It won't be messy. It will be precise, calculated, and impossible to stop. Because Beer doesn't react. She waits. And when she moves, it's already too late. So the real question is Ian making a choice? Or has he already made a mistake he can't come back from? Mark Fowler Jr. Pressure, power, and change. Now, let's talk about Mark Fowler Jr. Because his situation, he's not getting louder. It's getting heavier.
At first glance, it looks like he's in control, making moves, handling pressure, staying ahead. But that's the illusion. Because the truth is, he's already in too deep. And he doesn't even realise it yet. Because in Walford, money is never just money. It's leverage. It's control. And that £30,000 from Phil Mitchell, that's not help. That's ownership. And once you take that kind of money,
You don't walk away from it. You answer to it. And now, that pressure is starting to show. Not in what Mark says, but in who he's becoming. Because look at the way he handled Lauren Branning. That wasn't stress. That wasn't panic. That was control, turning into something darker. And that's the shift people need to pay attention to. Because this isn't just about debt anymore. This is about identity. Because every decision he's making now is pushing him further away from who he used to be and closer to something else. Something dangerous. Something familiar. And that's the real twist. Mark is starting to look like the very people he never wanted to become. And then there's Grant Mitchell. Because the moment Grant steps into a situation, everything changes. Now, it's not just pressure.
It's conflict. Because when Phil and Grant are involved, things don't stay controlled. They escalate fast. And when they don't agree, that's when everything breaks. And Mark, he's right in the middle of it, trying to balance both sides, trying to stay in control, trying to fix something that's already falling apart. But here's the reality. You can't control something that's already bigger than you. And Mark is about to learn that the hard way. Because the real danger isn't what he owes, it's what he's becoming to pay it back. And by the time he realises it, it might already be too late. Patrick's return. Distance, doubt, and division. While everything else is building, this story hits differently. Because it's not about power. It's not about control. It's about trust. And once that's gone, everything changes. Patrick Trueman is back. But this doesn't feel like a return. It feels like a shift. Because sometimes, coming back doesn't fix anything. It exposes everything. And when he walked into the Vic, that moment should have felt warm, familiar, comforting. But it didn't. It felt distant, uncertain. And that said everything. Especially for Jasmine Fisher. Because she thought things were over, settled, behind her. She thought she could finally move forward. But here's the truth. Moving on doesn't work if the people around you don't move with you. And when Patrick said he doesn't trust her, that wasn't anger. That wasn't emotion. That was final. And that's what made it hit harder.
Every moment, every silence. And in the middle of all this, Yolande Trueman is caught in between, trying to hold both sides together, trying to understand both perspectives, trying to fix something that isn't simple. But here's the problem. Not everything can be fixed, and not every divide can be closed. Because this isn't loud drama. This is quiet damage, the kind that builds slowly, sits silently, and then suddenly, everything feels different. Because when trust breaks like this, it doesn't come back easily.
So, when you step back and look at everything, Ian Beale is in power, but for the first time, he's not in control. Mark Fowler is trying to fix everything, but he's losing himself in the process. And Patrick's return, it hasn't brought closure, it's created distance. But the biggest twist, this is just the beginning, Because none of these stories feel finished. They feel connected, like pieces of something bigger, something building, something coming. Because in Walford, it's never the loud moments that change everything. It's the quiet ones, the ones you don't see coming, the ones that feel small until they're not. And right now, we're right at the edge of that moment. So watch closely, because the next move in Walford doesn't just affect one person, it changes everything. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button. It genuinely helps more than you think. And if you want more deep dives like this, subscribe to the Soap Insider 2.0. Because trust me, this story, it's far from over. And what's coming next, you won't see coming. I'll see you in the next one.